So if I bring you a bone
I transform it into a rock.
and a monster scale,
Yes, I make that into a rock.
what about a piece of paper signed by the guild?
That's just a rock waiting to happen.
Okay, what about a gem or like a plate?
Big rock.
Just a big one?
No, big and shiny.
Okay.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, hunters are working their way through the game, and a lot of people are through the story and now progressing into high rank as well. And as you do that, if you're anything like me, you're going to want to start building sets, lots of different sets for lots of different weapons, and also getting your fashion going too. And doing that takes monster materials, and quite a lot of them. So today we're going to talk everything you need to know about monster materials, how to know where they come from for each one, the most efficient ways to farm them at various points of progression, including some extra tips specifically for after you reach high rank as well. First up then, use the wish list function when it comes to farming things for specific pieces of equipment. Let's say you want a specific pair of gloves to up your fashion game, but you're missing a bit of the pieces you need for it. Mark it on your wish list at the smithy, and then not only will any quest with this monster on it gain a bonus symbol when you're posting quests, so it highlights anything that is relevant, but importantly you can check your wish list status from the options menu here in game. And if you interact with it further, you can check specific descriptions of each part too. And especially for some of the bits that don't come from monsters specifically, this can tell you exactly where to find and to gather it too. As well, it will mark these parts to make it even easier to use the next big useful tool for specific part farming, which is the large monster field guide. This will generally be filled out for each monster after you complete your first quest for them each time, including needing to do it again in high rank. And looking at specific monsters here, you can see things like their weaknesses to different elements on each body part and such, which is great, but then also you can see all of the drops that a monster can have, and you can then further interact with the screen to look in more detail at each part too. This can tell you some extremely important things, like the drop sources of each part that can come from a monster, and the chances it has of happening when you perform that action. Most parts will have a chance of dropping from either carving or from the quest rewards, specifically the target rewards. More particular monster parts might have a chance from carving or target rewards, but then be a guaranteed reward for breaking the related part, like breaking the head for a fang, the arm for a claw, that type of thing. Importantly, however, what this screen most matters for is that some monster bits only come from particular actions. There are some things that you can only get for specific part breaks and not from anything else, rather than from like carving or target rewards. And so if you don't realize that and don't break that part, you would literally never end up getting that to drop. There are some parts that only drop from popping wounds on a monster and nothing else. So if you don't pop wounds purposefully, your chances of seeing them goes down significantly. Or you can just use this to avoid what I did at the very start of the game by mistake, thinking the Balakji glasses were cool, checking the field guide, seeing that monster fluid is in their reward pool, killing about 3 dozen of them and not carving any fluid from them because I didn't check the detail screen on this to realize that it only comes from quest rewards, not from actually carving them. And since this incident, I have used this feature anytime I need to farm a specific part. That lesson was very much learned. That said, the next point of note here is actually skills. There are 2 specific skills that will make it easier to get monster parts regardless of your intended goal. Whether you are only looking for a claw or a fang, or if you're looking for just generally large amounts of materials, maybe for building a full armor set, or maybe you just want to generate materials for the smelting foundry, so the more the merrier. These 2 skills will be your friend. Flare, then, as a skill, goes up to 5 ranks. This is a new skill in Monster Hunter Wilds, and on top of the offensive effect, which gives you a bonus pop of damage occasionally when you're hitting monsters, this increases your ability to create wounds dramatically when you have the full 5 ranks. As I mentioned earlier, there are some monster parts that only drop from breaking wounds, but even aside from that, destroying wounds will generate monster parts, so more wounds produced means more wounds you can break, which means more parts dropping from the monster as a whole through a hunt. More literal, tangible rewards every time you fight monsters. Then you pair this with Part Breaker and things get really nasty. This is a pretty strong general offensive combo, as Part Breaker not only has its usual effect of increasing the part damage that you do with your hits, which makes it easier to break parts. This doesn't increase your damage literally, it just makes it easier to break specific parts of monsters by hitting them. And then this also, as a bonus in Wild specifically, gives you increased damage on your focus strikes that destroy a wound. So pair that with Flare to make more wounds, and you get bonus parts from the extra wounds, bonus part damage, meaning that you'll usually break more parts of the monster through the hunt, which in itself will generate more drops as well, and then bonus damage when performing focus strikes to break the wounds anyways, which means the hunt will go faster, and your overall farm speed, your items per time, however you'd want to call it that goes up a ridiculous amount from this combo too. Moving on then, let's talk about the trading NPCs. Sometimes these will offer you monster parts in exchange for other valuable items. This isn't necessarily the most efficient way of generating parts by any means, but if you just keep an eye on your trade options as they rotate into new offers, you might actually catch a part being offered that's of actual use to you, which I've had myself with Rove, that lovable little rascal. On a very similar note, in high rank you'll start to have the arrival of the supply ship and Santiago, who likes to sit on these boxes here when he comes to visit. He'll come to the Windward Plains camp and hang out there for a while with a stock of items that you can purchase with guild points, and by default, he will have a mix of consumables, monster materials, or equipment crafting stuff, and then fully made equipment and special items. You can also ask Santiago to be more specific with his next shipment, and you can ask him to focus on bringing equipment materials as well. You can push this cycle along purposefully with the rest function in your tent. After 3 or 4 rests, he will cycle out and leave, and then 3 or 4 rests and he will come back in with a fresh inventory. This can be a bit high on the point expense when you first reach high rank, but eventually you'll have so many guild points you won't know what to do with them, and a reasonable choice is just cycling the supply ship and buying out all their stuff, which you can then smelt into ore at the smelting foundry if you want to as well. Then our next big section here is going to be high rank specific, and it's investigations. When you reach high rank, your maps will start rotating between different weather cycles and the day-night cycle in full effect. You'll be able to see a forecast of the monsters upcoming on a timer, and when a monster spawns out on any map, you can then create an investigation for it, which often has a bunch of bonus rewards when you do it. If you are looking for parts from a specific monster, consider where the monster spawns, which you can also see on the monster field guide, which we talked about earlier. Then if the monster isn't currently on any of those map options, you can rest in your tent for 300 points to get a full reset on the map spawns. If the monster shows up, create a quest and see the rewards on offer, otherwise rest again until this happens. One of the absolute best things that you can do with this system is when you need a monster's gem. These are the rarest parts that a monster has, and they have the lowest rate of dropping from actual carves or quest rewards of any part that can drop from this, but there are investigations that you can find that offer a guaranteed gem for the target monster, and you can find these for any monster if you cycle through by resting over and over. I don't necessarily recommend this for like a beast gem from Kongalala you can beat up on repeat very easily, but for something like a gem from an apex monster, which you can specifically make spawn very consistently by always resting to the next inclemency back to back, or things like an arkveld gem from Arkveld himself, you're generally better off trying to spam rests until you get a guaranteed gem investigation pop up than just sort of running standard quests over and over again for these higher tier monsters. That said, there is one other consideration with investigations for monster parts specifically, which is the bonus monster part reward box. The brown monster part symbol with a star on it within these investigations means that each one will be a rarer monster part, and the number in the corner is how many of these you get for this. So you'll have these valuable drops happen, which is nice to have. The one that is just white or gray with no star means it's just common monster parts, so if you complete that investigation, you get bonus monster parts at the end rewards with their value determined by the symbol. These aren't necessarily the thing you will always want to focus on with your investigations, of course, and we will have videos going up later today and throughout the week, in fact, about the other main things that you would want to farm through investigations and how to maximize that too, so stay tuned for those if you're interested. The final thing to consider then is capturing versus killing monsters, and this is an age-old debate that comes up in every Monster Hunter game, and to put it simply, there is not a correct one-size-fits-all answer, so let's go over the pros and cons in Monster Hunter Wilds specifically. There is no difference in direct rewards between killing and capturing monsters in this game. When you capture in Wilds, you just get carve rewards automatically popping up on the side of your screen. Generally speaking, you can capture a monster when it is around 20% health, with some variation on that depending on the monster, but that means that if you think of it that way, if capturing and killing have equal rewards, but capturing can be done 20% faster than killing, then surely capturing is the right way to go, right? Well, there is one other consideration here too, which we touched on a lot when talking about Flayer and Partbreaker as skills, and that's the fact that 20% of the health bar could still have wounds created while you're fighting it. It can still have parts broken on the monster, and that means more monster materials that could be created for each quest by continuing the hunt instead of capturing. That said, monster parts seem to get wound resistance the more wounds that you create on the same part, so the further into a hunt you are, the less frequently you'll be able to create wounds, which would make the last 20% of the hunt the least valuable time in that case. So then, what positive reasons are there to continue hunting a monster past the point it's ready to be captured? Well, if you are looking for specific part breaks that haven't happened yet, things like a head break or a tail sever for that extra carve, if you are after these specific parts and these interactions, then you are more likely likely to get what you want by continuing the hunt rather than ending it early and starting a fresh one. You can also make some sort of argument for getting the most out of each quest, so you go through your investigation slower to get the more parts, even if it is less efficient more parts. But if it's the investigation rewards that you're after specifically, it's then just better to finish the hunt as quick as you can regardless. That said, this leaves us with a pretty concrete answer overall. If you are looking for a specific monster material that requires a part to be broken, keep killing the monster past 20%. Otherwise, capturing it as soon as it is able, as soon as that skull appears, as soon as your palico yells at you, will result in more materials gained for the time spent, which will really just add up over a larger period of time. That said, personally, even though I went through all of this and I know that statistically it is the better way of doing it, and I told you this information here, I personally am someone who often ends up just fully killing monsters because I enjoy doing that more than I enjoy capturing them. So if you care about efficiency and you want to maximize your farm, capturing is usually your best bet. But that doesn't mean you have to if you don't want to. Simple as that. That's pretty much everything worth talking about on the subject of monster material farming then, as far as I can think of then. If you have any more questions in relation to this topic at all, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and hopefully this video will help you get your dream weapon, your perfect armor set on, or just help you get started on filling out a bunch of fashion sets too. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.